Hey everybody, I'm Clay Mills. We have so many talented members of our SongTown community that it would be really impossible to give shout outs to everyone that truly deserves them. But we get a ton of joy reading your emails, celebrating your victories, all the way from writing your very first song to those of you celebrating #1 hits as songwriters and artists. But earlier today, Songtownian Peter Newman stopped by the studios, and I thought he had a really inspirational story, and I asked him to hop on camera and share it with you guys. We had a ton of fun busting up some of those long-standing songwriting myths. The ones like you've got to live in a big music city like London or LA or Nashville in order to make it in the music business. Or that other one that says you've got to be a really young singer or a writer in order to make it in the music business. Well, Peter's none of those things, but what he is an up-and-coming writer that's landing some nice cuts on big records, and I can't wait to share his story with you. So probably the two biggest questions I get in Songtown is people asking, can you really get cuts as a writer today? And then the other, do I even have a shot if I don't live in a music city? And I was thinking, you're the perfect person to talk about, because when I first met you, we were having some kind of contest at Songtown where you get to write with an artist, and you were winning these contests and killing it. And we were like, who is this guy, Peter? And then now, a few years later, you're getting on albums. You're on the Megan Maroney album, Tyler Booth, Brandon Davis.
Which we wrote together.
We wrote together, yeah. So I thought it'd be cool just to tell us, how does someone that did not live in Nashville have the ability to start getting songs on? How did that journey happen?
Well, I'm a little older, which maybe is...
Me too.
Maybe it's a good thing, too, because a lot of people think you can't be...
Well, that's true, too.
25.
I get that, too. Yeah. People go, well, I'm not in my 20s, so I don't have a chance. So, you're disproving all the disprovable, non-disprovable elements of song.
You sound like Donald Rumsfeld or something. The known unknowns and all that kind of thing. I think one of the big shifts been, in a positive way, has been the internet, obviously.
Yeah.
Pre-internet made it much more difficult, where you had to get on a plane, you had to move somewhere, you had to hang out for a long period of time, get to know people. And that's still very, very important, especially in your community and wherever you are. And then, you should be making, if Nashville's the place you want to be, you should be making trips to Nashville to get to know people, obviously.
Yeah. I think that really changed during COVID because people had to write by Zoom.
Yeah.
And so people just got used to it, and they're like,
absolutely.
Well, this isn't so bad. I can stay in my pajamas and wake up in the morning and not leave the house and write a song.
Well, not only that, very well when we get together, a lot of times you don't write a song.
Right.
Or something goes a little longer. And if you're committed to a Zoom, it's business, right? So it's definitely more efficient. It doesn't replace the in-person meetings. But COVID, I was writing before that and, kind of did this thing once before in the 2000s when I was 30.
You mean coming to Nashville?
Yeah, I used to live here for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I moved back to where I'm from, which is Newfoundland, Canada. If you want to be out of a music scene, we have a music scene, but it's a very Irish folk scene.
Yeah.
But not a country scene.
Not a big demand for Irish folk tunes on country radio.
No, there is not. I do have a lot of friends who are through over the years, made close friends with musicians and writers and producers. And a lot of those things have been just showing up to different events.
What do you mean by events? Like showcases and writers'
showcases, songwriting events. Sometimes it would be, a music association, SOCAM, BMI, ASCAP would put off. Maybe you'd get to play one of your songs, they would critique it. And then, you get a one-on-one with somebody at some point, or maybe you hang out around the donuts after or something.
Yeah.
And I think those personal connections where you do meet a few friends, like I met Marty actually a long time ago, Phil O'Donnell that him and I made a connection quite some time ago, and Phil actually visited me in Newfoundland to go moose hunting.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of had that connection. And so, so when the pandemic hit, like you were saying, it kind of forced everybody to go on. We were all locked in our basements. You were doing home remodeling, or for us, you're a songwriter or producer, right? So, so that, and, I was literally still am doing it in a basement in St. John's, Newfoundland, which is pretty well as far as away you could get from any, professional music scene, commercial music scene. And through that, some of my connections, I'll give credit to Jensen Vaughn, is a friend of mine that I met at a music association, and Jensen has wrote songs for Madonna and Britney Spears and, just a load of people. I think I may have sent him a song. He was like, this is cool, let's write. And he pulled me in on a write, and I became friends with that co-writer. We just kept on writing, and next thing your circle gets a little bigger. And eventually one of those songs stuck. I had a placement in Eurovision, and that was through a friend that I met with Jensen Vaughn called Alexander Pavlich in Norway.
So through co-writing, your music goes from Canada all the way to Norway.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was performed on the Eurovision. I think that was 2021. So which is a big deal. If you may not know about Eurovision, but it's the second biggest televised event. It's actually the biggest music event in the world. Oh. Yeah, only the World Cup is bigger, right? So, and then that opens doors for you. Then later on, through a song that I wrote for that, got placed on a Netflix series. And the Tyler Booth thing happened with a song that I wrote with Phil. And then I'm not sure how I found Songtown. Might have been, I'm not sure how that came to be. Might have been an internet search. I don't know.
You said you knew Marty.
I did, but I can't remember if I connected Marty to SongTown or maybe it was Vibe City, maybe somebody that I knew from that. But I became a member of SongTown and started applying for those artists writing courses that you have. That's fantastic. Where people, and then you really shrink the numbers when you think about it.
Well, yeah.
Because, now you're maybe a class of 50 or 100 or 200 people and there's 2, 3, or 4 artists.
Right.
Your numbers went from astronomical to like, I don't know, this is real chances. If you had those odds to Vegas, you'd be going all the time.
Yeah.
So, so it kind of, one thing led to another. Through some of that, I ended up connecting with Showbiz and give them great credit.
Song Pluggers,
Liz and Rana. And then I started coming here more often. Ended up probably coming here 3 or 4 times a year. Last year I was here about 3.5 months. And one of those co-writes was with Megan. And she didn't have her deal. Tennessee Orange was just about to be released. And I think, in the end, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to increase your odds.
Right.
More songs, more people, higher level of opportunities, and maybe one of those stick.
You said 2 things that are important. You started co-writing.
Co-writing is huge.
Which widens your contacts.
Yeah.
Then the other thing was, a lot of times in Songtown, people go, well, how can I write a song with Keith Urban? Or how can I get my song to Keith Urban? Okay, you were just on a top 10 country album with Maroney.
Actually, Rolling Stone said it was the #1 last year. I got to put that out there. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that yet.
Yeah, last year's.
This didn't happen because you came to town and said, oh, I'm going to go write with Keith Urban. No. You wrote with someone who didn't even have a deal yet.
Absolutely.
And that is always the way it happens 99% of the time.
Absolutely. And you must see this all the time. I'm getting to see it a bit now, but where you get to write with a bunch of young artists. Some of them have deals, they just got a deal, or they don't have a deal, or they came off a TV show, or they're on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then the following year, you see that 1 or 2 or 3 of those people are now household names.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. So it's, it's like...
So the more of them you write with, the more nobodies you write with.
Yeah.
Some of them become
They're going to come, And I had a song with Bailey Zimmerman that was almost made the record.
Yeah.
I had a song that was with Jelly Roll that was really close. You know what I mean? So they didn't have anything going on at that time. A lot of people in the town knew them, but the records weren't out. And they may show up again, who knows? But
That's what I was going to say.
You know this better than anyone.
I have a friend that wrote a song that Taylor Swift just heard at a writer's night, and then years later she cut it.
Yeah.
It was like just a fluke thing. So you never know what's going to happen. I've had songs that were recorded for an album, they dropped it off of the album, then they put out a greatest hits record, and they're like, well, we need a new song for the greatest hits. So it shows up on the greatest hits record. You just never know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might end up with a Jelly Roll
It's
record.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and all those things, and what it comes down to is that those people are easier to access.
Right.
But they're all professional. They're all hungry. They all have the interests of the city and the community, and, in the industry. So they're, it's kind of trying to be intelligent about how you're working through the.
And you don't have to be. Here's the other myth that you have to be young and hip to be. I'm not saying you're not young and hip, but I know I'm not young and hip at the same time at this point. So you don't have to be 20-something years old to write with a 20-something-year-old artist, because as an older writer, you have experience. Yeah. You're good at crafting songs.
Absolutely.
You can bring experience to the room that those younger artists don't have yet.
I think in a lot of ways too, maybe because you're a little bit older, you're probably a little more professional. Do a lot more research.
So you'll show up and you won't have a hangover.
I won't have a hangover. I probably have a lot of ideas. I probably have some things in my back pocket. I can remember even when we were writing for Jelly Roll, we even mapped out his vocal range. So we did all the research. Yeah. We looked at what titles he cut, what he was interested in. So I think we got close. Mm-hmm. It may never made the end pile, but we got in the door. And I think if you're a little older, you'll probably be more aware of the time you're putting into it. So you're trying to maximize every moment.
Yeah.
So when it comes to songwriting, absolutely. You just have to be some relevant ideas, and yours, as good to go as any 20-year-old. At least that we tell ourselves anyway.
And that's a lot of what we teach in SongTown is being professional. Show up with ideas. Yeah. Don't just show up and hope something good happens. Writing with Mr. Darius on the wall there, showing up. The first time I wrote with him, I had a completed chorus or two, and I pulled them out. He liked them, and we finished them. One ended up being his first number one song. If I had not brought that into the equation, then, you got to go in prepared.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm sure someone told me this or warned me of it, and I've seen this with some people that I've brought into sessions, that if you're writing up, which is a lot of times you're writing up with an artist or a more experienced songwriter.
Someone's more successful at the moment.
You should always bring something to the table.
Yeah.
Don't come in cold. It's almost disrespectful, and it's probably stupid, because this is business. You're trying to put your best foot forward. You might only have one opportunity to impress, so you're trying to bring the goods. You only got a 3-hour time period usually.
I know my experience a lot of times with young artists, they a lot of times will come in with nothing. They've got a hangover. They can't, and so it's a struggle. So
stayed up late the night before for a 10 o'clock, right?
It's okay to stay up the night before if you can come in and you have something to present and you can pull it off.
Yeah.
Gary Burr was a long-time successful writer in Nashville, and he used to say, if I stay out the night before, I come in, and when I'm writing, my brain's too tired to overthink it. And he's like, I just would come up with instinctual stuff. He goes, if I got a good night's sleep, so it worked for him. He's like, a good night's sleep, he was overthinking everything. And
I need my sleep.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. So any final words for someone that's trying to get started, maybe thinking about making a move to Nashville or New York, or maybe they're thinking about coming here occasionally? What's your advice for those?
One thing I would say, it's kind of one of those things you wish you knew earlier yourself. The music industry is an outlier anyway of normal industries. If you want to be a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer, you can pretty well know what to do. The music industry is a bit different. And if this is what you want to do, you should do it. If this is what you really want to do, now you should probably talk yourself out of it first. But if you're going to do it, because you really only have time to do one thing well, really.
Yeah.
And that's why someone will point, but somebody, is got a music career and they're a brain surgeon. Yeah. Well, not very many people.
Yeah.
Putting the work into it, becoming a little bit better than you were a few months before. And because, I think songwriting is a craft that you can learn.
Right.
Of course, some people come at, unbelievable songwriters, but it's a craft. And like any other craft, you put the hours into it, you can do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Peter.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
See you.